Before the match begun, I found my opponent's Lichess account, on which they had like 100,000 games. So I knew what they played, which was awesome. I did some revision of the line. I knew they played the Bishop G5 line in the Sicilian Najdorf, which is very, very sharp. But it seemed like it got to a point where their theory kind of ran out, which is good for me because this is a very, very, very sharp line where if you don't know your theory, you're kind of dead. But yeah, it was a really fun game. So he started with e4 and I played c5 going into the Sicilian. He plays knight f3, d6, d4, takes. All as expected, knight here attacking the pawn. They played knight there defending, a6. And yeah, then he plays bishop g5, which is the most critical line in the Sicilian, I think, because it's very, very sharp, goes a little crazy. White usually goes for like pushing f4, g5, crazy quick attack on the king side. Black is sometimes castling, sometimes running away. It's very crazy. I play e6 here, which is basically the only move. There's also knight d7, but e6 is the only real move played here. You just wanna make sure if they're ever taking f6 that you're not doubling your g-pawns and you create a nice square for your bishop to go. Next they go f4, trying to start off the quick attack, and I just go bishop e7 here, developing my bishop. They go queen f3, I play queen c7 here, because I noticed that they had poor results to playing queen c7 first as opposed to knight d7, so I thought I'd throw them into the line that makes them most uncomfortable. Next, he gets castled, queenside. Scary stuff. Scary, scary stuff. I play knight b to d7, bring my knight out. It can maybe go to c5 or b6. Also supports this knight over here, so I could recapture like this if I wanted. All that jazz. Then he goes bishop d3, developing the bishop. I go b5, trying to start an attack on the queen side because, and somehow it's still theory here. There's a lot of theory in the Najdorf. There's a lot. So I go for b5 here, firstly making somewhere for my light square bishop to be developed, and also planning to push b4, attack the knight, attack everything on the queen side, checkmate him, all of that. Then they go rook h to e1, which is like, they want to start attacking in the center. And you'll see why they play rook h to e1 on the next move. It sets up a lot of tactical ideas. I just play bishop b7 because developing the pieces is always the most important. He goes queen g3 here, sliding the queen over. And now there's like some threats down here on this g7 pawn if this bishop's ever moving over here. Starts to become a little bit scary. I go for b4 here. It's so weird because it says b4 is best and it's equal. I'm not sure what the eval bar is doing. Maybe I remove it because it's being silly. So I go b4. He goes knight d5 here, which in lower depth, it called this a brilliant move, but on higher depth, it was like, okay, it's not that brilliant. So they play knight d5 here, which looks like a crazy sack straight away, but it's actually just like a common idea in this opening. Knight d5, once you take, there's so much pressure down here. White usually, so this is actually completely equal here, but it is razor sharp. You need to know what you're doing. So here I go, I take the knight. They take back, and here you have to get your king out of the way, otherwise you're screwed. Like, everything is coming into the attack very quickly. Like, down this file, it can become very scary very quickly. For instance, there's ideas like, you know, checking here, and then after takes bishop h4, going for all the stuff around here. It's very scary. So I play king d8 here. King d8 is safer than king f8, even though king f8, it may look a little more cozy. King d8 is the way to go, and the plan is just to run the king all over the way here, like just as far away from all the pieces as possible. This isn't preparation. My preparation stops here. My preparation stops here at b4 because he's always played like knight c to e2 or that sort of thing in similar positions. He played a different move order to what he plays on Lichess, where he played bishop d3 here instead of he usually plays like bishop c4 and other stuff. I just take the knight and I move out of the way, and I calculated that I should be okay here. After this check, I just put my knight here, and it's all okay. It looks a little scary, But I'm just gonna try and run my king away and consolidate on the queen side, because as much as the queen side doesn't look super safe, there's really no pieces, like there's no pieces really attacking the queen side. Taking on d5 here with the bishop is gonna lead to bad things because, okay, for example, bishop takes d5, immediately it's +6 because of knight f5 here, and that's the threat that I wanted to stop. Knight f5 is super dangerous. So yeah, you can't take there. You want to avoid knight f5. So the reason why I play king d8 is now knight f5 can be met with like rook here, or I just, not move the knight, like rook here, just something to defend or move the bishop. So knight f5 isn't a threat when you move over. Okay, so here he gives me a check and I decide I will take here, but I'm not going to take with the queen after, because then they've got all these ideas of bringing their bishop over here. Like, okay, so something I was imagining was like takes, and like taking here and then trying to create a skewer down here. Like, for example, takes. I think this is still fine, but I was imagining he wanted like something like this, where the threat is taking on g7, and then there's also like threats of this if the knight's ever moving, so it looks quite scary. Like, obviously, if I take with the bishop instead to defend g7, then he's got bishop here, and yeah, it doesn't look very fun. So what I decided was that after check takes, I'll just go knight c5 here, and knight c5 just protects these squares. The e4 square is a really nice one to be controlling, and well, I'll eventually take this pawn, but there's no real way for them to defend the pawn, so I'm fine. I'm fine with them just leaving it. And I think here's where they make a mistake. So they're meant to play bishop h4 here, which my opponent after the game said he totally forgot that idea. Bishop h4 is a really important idea to remember if you're playing this line, because it attacks the g-pawn and it's really hard to defend for black here, because they've got all these threats down here. If this knight ever moves, then there's two attackers on the bishop on e7. So bishop h4 is a nice idea to remember if you're playing this line. But instead my opponent plays queen e3. And I guess they're just trying to put pressure down here. They're also maybe thinking of moving this bishop here and then taking here as a threat, because I'm pinned down this file. For example, if they, I don't know, say I just make like a random move, like I'm trying to find a random move that would blunder that. I can't think of a blunder. I just can't think of it. Here, I contemplate a few moves. I obviously can't take the pawn because that would blunder e7, and I decide that rook a7 is probably the best move. Firstly, it allows my queen to move off c6. Secondly, my idea is rook a7, queen takes c6, and then run my king over to b8 and put my rook on c7. So that's my plan here, is that I want to be able to create a little double up on this side. So I play rook a7 here. And this just kind of defends everything nicely. Here they play bishop c4, which is what I expected. They want to create this threat of taking here, because obviously at the moment, if they take that, I can't take back because I'm pinned. But I just decided, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take on c6. Now the queen defends the knight, and if they take on f7, then I can just start my plan of going over to b8 and putting my rook on c7. Here it's like already borderline winning for black. It's like -3 at the moment. So we just need to convert. I take the pawn, and then he takes here as expected, and now I'm like, okay, now it's time to start running the king, because I don't want to be in any pins. I want my king safe over on the other side of the board. So I run over to c8. Rook c7 immediately was better. I decided to run the king first. Like, yeah, it was better to play rook c7 first. They check me, which I also thought probably wasn't the best idea, because I wanted to go to b8 anyway, and this kind of just helps me over. They should have just played something like g4, it says, and keep the attack going if they can, but it's already tricky. And also putting their bishop on e6 sets up a tactic for me later on. So I move over to b8 now, and I get all the way over to the other side. As I plan, my king has walked. It's walked 500 miles and 500 more just to be at the a8 squared door. And then here he goes for rook d4, simply just trying to attack my pawn here. I'm like, okay, I'll just defend the pawn. Then he goes rook here, trying to set up this pin, I suppose, trying to put pressure on me. But now I just play rook c7 and everything is all held together. He plays queen f2 and I have a really nice move to just straight up win material here. I calculated this quite quickly, but I did make sure that everything was working first. Now I play d5 here. Firstly, we're attacking the rook. Secondly, we're attacking the knight. The rook can't go anywhere where it's still keeping a pin on this, so I'm threatening to take this the next move. But yeah, d5 here, we attack this. And then also, if they take here, we can take with the knight, everything's defended. And also say this rook disappears, like this rook is gone, we're also threatening knight d3 check as well. So there's a lot of tactical threats at this point. So here my opponent tries one last move, takes here. If bishop takes, it allows them to sack their rook here for a bit of material, so it simplifies it a little bit, but I decide to keep the pressure on. I play g takes f6, and we still have all these threats of attacking the rook, attacking this bishop here. Knight d3 does not work straight away. Knight d3 does not work here, because the bishop can just take. So here, knight takes, and the bishop also protects here. So knight d3 is a threat if the rook moves. But knight d3 doesn't work right now because they can just take with the pawn and then everything's defended. Yeah, it's a future threat. But yeah, d5 just wins here. Attacking the rook, attacking this. We're guaranteed to win material here. And yeah, they take, and then here, they resign.